Right now, we're standing in a place that very few people have ever set foot in. It's a completely isolated island with not a single human being on it. Even Antarctica, the southern polar continent, isn't far from here. That's why the weather is always icy, there are very few plants, and the wind blows from every direction. But in the midst of all these crazy conditions, we might come across a very strange creature, a wild sheep. Yes, really, just like I'm telling you. A wild sheep living there as if it owns the land. And it's not just one or two sheep that happen to end up here by chance, there are thousands of them. Their number has reached almost 4,000 sheep. What's even stranger is that these sheep are completely different from the ones we know. Their size is 3 or 4 times bigger than regular sheep. What's scary is that the sheep have adapted brilliantly to the isolation and harsh conditions, as if they're super sheep. Over time, they turned into a new breed, completely different in their characteristics from the sheep we know. In today's episode, I'll tell you about the largest flock of sheep that formed by chance in New Zealand, how they got to the island, and how their numbers kept increasing without any human intervention. And also, how they managed to survive against wild predators. All this and more we'll find out in today's episode if you watch until the end. But before we start, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. Now let's get started. Our story begins on Campbell Island, which is isolated from the rest of the world. This island was first recorded in 1810. That was by an Australian captain who was heading there to hunt seals. The ship belonged to 2 brothers from Sydney named Campbell. This of course explains why the island was named Campbell Island. For a long time the island was used for seal hunting and later for whaling. That continued until a man named Gordon came along and decided to lease the island from the government as a usufruct, right? After that, he sent 400 sheep to the island along with some supplies for building houses and facilities. After a long time, specifically in the year 1900, Gordon had become an old man, aged and tired, and decided to sell everything and leave the project before seeing it through to the end. He sold the island to a man named Captain Tucker. From here, Captain Tucker decided to work hard and sent 3 shipments to the island carrying about 3,000 sheep, most of which were of a breed called Merino. The important thing is that, in the end, the number of sheep reached 4,000. At that time, the island's climate was perfect for them. There were huge grasses and plenty of food. This environment was paradise for the sheeplots to eat and no one to bother them. And this was something that helped the flock grow and reproduce freely. And in just 13 years, specifically in 1913, the sheep population reached about 8,000. But this increase in their numbers would cause a dramatic shift in our story today. As the number of sheep grew, the grass started to dwindle and food became almost non-existent. And unfortunately, the owners of the island, the humans, left the island. The number of sheep gradually decreased, but it didn't drop by much. In fact, you could say they returned to their original numbers. That is, 4,000 sheep. The problem is that merino sheep are mainly raised for their wool. And if this wool isn't sheared every year, it keeps accumulating on their bodies and can literally suffocate them. For example, there was a sheep named Barak whose story became very famous. This sheep was found in Australia in 2021. And when they found him, the wool had covered him so much that he couldn't see or move. And he only survived by a miracle when people saw him and rescued him. Now imagine with me, what would happen to 4,000 sheep in that same condition? What would their fate be? And if they were attacked by predators, how would they be able to escape and save their lives? So what's the situation exactly on Campbell Island? Are there any predators there? Actually no. And of course that's very lucky for them. The island, as big as it is, covers more than 27,000 acres. But there weren't any real predators there. After humans left in 1913, thousands of sheep died and their bodies were scattered everywhere. However, those that managed to survive changed completely between 1931 and 1958. You could literally say a miracle happened. The small number of sheep suddenly started to increase again, and this was for the first time without any human intervention. Scientists believe that what happened is called natural selection. In simple terms, the sheep that survived were the ones that were stronger, had less wool, or were smarter. And over time, these strong genes were passed on to the next generations. Now we've ended up with a completely new and even more formidable breed. The best part is that, with the reduced number of sheep, the plants started to grow back again. After more than 40 years, specifically in 1975, humans returned to the island to collect the remaining sheep. But they didn't know that a surprise was waiting for them. The sheep were no longer as docile as they used to be. They had become aggressive and fierce, attacking any creature that came near them without hesitation. Their legs had grown longer, and their jaws had become deformed from eating tough plants so much that they even started giving birth while standing up, as if it were normal. And every lamb that was born was so strong that it could walk just minutes after birth. Even the wool problem was relatively solved, because the wool would fall off on its own, and the sheep would keep eating from dawn until nightfall. They didn't care about the cold or the rain at all. The sheep transformed from peaceful creatures into wild beasts that could pose a real danger. In the 70s, scientists decided to slaughter all the sheep that were there. And the only reason was that they were afraid of their terrifying evolution. The scientists built a wall that divided the island into two halves. The northern half, all the sheep in it were killed in the same year. And in the southern half, the last group disappeared in the 80s. Some scientists saw a mutation in the sheep that they believed was impossible to happen again, and that's why they decided to save a group of them and raise them in captivity. But gathering them was by no means an easy task, because they were no longer just ordinary farm sheep. They are now wild creatures capable of defending themselves. The important thing is that after much struggle, the scientists managed to gather 58 sheep and selected only the strongest 10 to breed and preserve the lineage. But in 2017, a shocking and strange disaster occurred. Some thieves killed 5 of the ewes that were in captivity, and some of them were even pregnant. The killing of those 5 mothers caused the number to drop from 58 to only 30 sheep. The shocking part is that after all the effort the thieves put into hunting and slaughtering them, they discovered in the end that not only did the meat taste bad, but it might not even be safe to eat at all. And now, scientists are doing their utmost to preserve the remaining sheep. This is despite the fact that if they had just left them alone in the wild, by now we might have had a new breed that could support industries relying on wool. Throughout history, there have been many stories of animals that managed to adapt and evolve into new species without any human intervention. Just like what happened to the kangaroos on the island of the dead about 10,000 years ago. Water flooded a large part of the land and separated a portion from the Australian continent. That part became isolated and turned into a new island. The indigenous people called it Carter Island. That name means Island of the Dead. And even though it was uninhabited and had no residents, but it did have something else. Some animals got stranded there when the land split off, including some kangaroos. After that, the sea acted like a god. The sea prevented humans from reaching it and kept the island safe from hunting and logging. When the Europeans arrived on the island in the 19th century, they saw the kangaroos, were amazed, and immediately named it Kangaroo Island. The original kangaroo was just a branch of the grey kangaroo, but over time its appearance and makeup changed, and it became a completely different species. Its body became shorter, its weight heavier, and its fur changed to a dark brown color, almost like chocolate. It adapted to survive on very little water and to feed on local grasses and shrubs. In fact, the life of this kangaroo was much easier than that of other kangaroos living on the Australian mainland. There were no wild dogs to attack it, nor cars to run it over. And the island basically had no predators at all. But the weather there was a bit colder. So what was the solution? The kangaroo's traits started to change, and its fur became thicker to keep it warm in the cold. And now, I want to know your opinion. What do you think would have happened if we had left the Campbell Island sheep alone? And all those sheep that were killed, wouldn't it have been better to send them to us so we could sacrifice them for Eid al-Adha, instead of them going to waste like that? Tell me your thoughts below in the comments. And if you liked the video, please don't forget to hit the like button below the video. And of course, subscribe to the channel if this is your first time joining us. This was your brother, Mohammed Garber, and I'll see you in the next episode.